What is up, you guys? My name is Cash, and today I am going to be flying the Angle TAC Comanche 250 by Piper aircraft. Today I'm just going to be doing a slight delivery from the Piper headquarters to Dominica, which is going to be Tango Delta Papa Delta, which is my arrival airport. You may have noticed that some of the starting of the video is missing, but I assure you it is not my fault. It is the editor that I use to edit my videos, and apparently it messed up the takeoff. For the most part, this is going to be a multiple part series because the flight from Florida to Dominica is an extremely long one, especially in the Comanche. Usually a normal flight in a 737 from Florida to Antigua, which is still in the Caribbean, just a few islands. It's like about 3 hours and a few minutes, most likely, give or take, depending on your altitude and the speed that you fly at. For the most part, it is going to be an extremely long flight, and I don't really have a problem with that. Anything to really enjoy the business that is flight simulations, and for the most part, I really don't have a problem flying these long flights, especially in the Comanche. The only difficult thing about the Comanche is the fact that you have to constantly be trimming the aircraft for level flight, and that's the most troublesome thing that I've seen on this aircraft. Reason being that the only thing that I could have done when I saw, which was less irritating for me, because once you try to trim because of turbulence and stuff along the route, what happens is the aircraft tends to lose trim, and you have this irritating beeping which you have to go back and retrim the aircraft based upon your climb or descent rate, and retrim the aircraft to maintain the current altitude. Now, what I've found is once this aircraft is above 8,000 feet to 9,000, 10,000 feet, you could easily put it into auto, make sure that you're in level flight, put it into auto, and try to trim the aircraft to maintain the current altitude that you are at. Even though you climb above or below it doesn't really matter, as long as you are on the correct altitude. You reduce your engine power, and you reduce the engine power so that you can get 2400 RPM. You reduce the mixture, you lean the mixture in order to get the same 2400 RPM, and you still, well, not reduce the mixture, you get 2400 RPM. What am I saying? You reduce the mixture so that you can get at least 15 miles per gallon. Yeah, 15 miles or 15 gallons per hour. That's basically what I read the A2A simulations forums. Apparently, I'm not too sure if I'm correct about it. Not too sure if that is basically what you do. But hey, I'm not a pilot. For the first part, I am not well versed in the Comanche. All I do is flight simulations, and all I do is fly the aircraft behind my computer from point A to point B. I fly for 7 different virtual airlines, which I do currently. In all of them, I have over 8 to 9,000 flight hours in either one. I'm well versed in every aircraft that I fly. The Comanche, however, is not in any virtual airline, and I haven't seen any virtual airline that uses GA aircraft to really give you a sense of GA flying. For the most, the only places that I use GA aircraft, which is the Cessna 28 Grand Caravan, which is from Caravan, it's from FedEx. And FedEx Virtual has some great routes, but it's basically mainly in the Caribbean, no more, no less. It's mainly Caribbean flight, which is really not an issue for me. I like flying mainly anywhere that I can, get a good, decent sight of, let's see, the scenery. I know my flight simulator isn't the best. It's not the best looking. It doesn't have the best scenery settings. It doesn't look all too pleasant actually to be put on film, but you have to admire the work that my laptop puts in. My laptop puts in, like, for example, my laptop is running 2.27 gigahertz with an Intel i3 M350 processor. It's running an Intel HD graphics card, which is really not good for flight simulator at all because you don't get good FPS. My processor is basically hyper-threaded because it's a dual-core processor, and Intel had that processor hyper-threaded, meaning that my dual-core processor will be able to handle a lot more workload. It means that it separates two cores into double of itself, so it's basically doing that narrow ship with itself. It clones itself into being a quad-core processor, so it will have four logical processors. I have 4 gigabytes of RAM. Not really, it's basically a stock RAM from what came with my laptop. Didn't really change it for the time being. I do have a few new stuff coming down because I'm going to get the Corsair Vengeance 8GB DDR3 for this. I am also going to get the Intel i7 processor. It's still a dual core, but yet still it's hyper-threaded to make it a quad core. It can be turbo boosted to 4.1 gigahertz. I am also trying to get a few stuff like, let's see, the mini PCI Express, and a brand new graphics card, which is most likely going to be an NVIDIA graphics card because, let's face it, NVIDIA is better at gaming. NVIDIA is better at everything. Although I did sat on an AMD, graphics card for a while, graphics driver for a while. The downgraded version of this laptop that I'm using right now, it's an HP G72 US. I had the G62 version of this, and it was running flight sim a little better, but not at the capacity that this one is running it at this time. My CFG is tweaked. My settings for my Intel graphics driver are set to max settings basically for so that I can get better looking graphics, better everything. The only downside is it shares that with my processor, and the fact that the processor is where the graphics card is located, the graphics chipset is located, it's doubling the workload on the processor. So I will have, like, let's say for example, when I'm on Flight Simulator, I have FSX running on not maxed settings, but basically medium settings. And see, my water detail is not on max. My water detail would normally be on high 2, but for the purpose of recording with fraps, I didn't use any high water textures. Apparently using water textures high for the time, and basically I don't really see the difference between what I'm using here right now and the max settings, because apparently whenever I am on the max settings I don't really get that high detailed textures unless I'm flying extremely low, because for my virtual flights in the other virtual airlines I don't normally fly below 3,000 2,000, 2,000 feet, 4,000 feet unless I am on approach to the runway, and basically it doesn't really make any sense to have my water textures to max using up all my resources. Now the thing is, it is always a smart thing to keep it on a high too, because basically it's not really doing much of damage to my FPS. It's basically no everyday flight for me. I get not the best of FPS hits, but my aircrafts are basically flyable, completely flyable. It's not really having much of issues with any um, long range flights, with any short haul flights, with any hops or anything like that. Because the reason being that um, I don't keep my settings on max. That's basically it. I don't keep my flight sim settings on max. Like I said, my FSX CFG is tweaked, so there are limits to what I can and cannot do. For the most part, what I do with my water textures is that I changed. I got actually not changed. I got Rex for Texture Direct with soft clouds, and what that does is it changes up the textures in Flight Sim X prepared and Flight Sim Steam Edition. Basically, it's kind of more difficult in FSX Steam Edition because they don't have a definite installer for that yet. I'm not too sure, but I do have prepared. I do have FSX and I do fly FSX Steam. For the most part, which one do I rather between all of them? I will basically get to that later on, but for the time being, what I did was I did install Rex 4 Texture Direct. I set up my Rex 4 Texture Direct in basically the way that I would have great visuals, I would have an amazing detailed flight simulator for as little, with the trade-off would be as low as possible. I was normally flying with realistic clouds before, but the issue is that with fraps, everybody knows, on that normal flight I was getting 30 to 40 FPS, and whenever I turned on fraps, it would drop my FPS down to 20 all the way down to 14 FPS. Within this entire flight I had to stop the recording and record again because of the issue with fraps. After a certain distance it would literally drop my FPS down to about 1 FPS, and as soon as I switch it off it would go back up to 40 FPS or 30. It's currently set to unlimited, which is basically not suggested by me. I don't expect for anyone to decide, you know what, he said it in his video, I'm gonna try to do it because I have a low specs PC. No, I did not say that. I basically switched it to unlimited just for test purposes only. I don't advise setting it to unlimited because basically your PC has to use up more resources to try to think up of an imaginary number of FPS to get for you. I would suggest doing it if you have a high-end PC, but on a low-end PC I would suggest that you lock your FPS or your frame rate, your target frame rate, to about 30 frames per second. And basically your scenery settings, that is something that a lot of people have a bit of issue trying to wrap their head around. If your PC is a low specs PC, you cannot have brilliant visuals and great FPS. You have to trade off. So what I would suggest doing is, for those of you who have Intel graphics cards, I would suggest that going to the Intel Command Center, and in your 3D tab, what you do is you switch it to what was it again? You switch it to quality. That's what it is. That's what that is. Quality. I gotta remember that. You switch it to quality. You save, and then in the power management, you switch it to best performance. Basically, what it's gonna do is it is going to give you brilliant visual, basically make your FSX looks brilliant, and it is still with the trade-off that FSX has. Even though you lower down the scenery settings, even if you drop it down to, for example, my level of detail radius is on medium. Sometimes I set it to low, sometimes I keep it at medium, depends on what I'm doing. So if you set it to medium, for example, and you lower down the rest of your sliders, set your autogen and everything down to normal or sparse, for example, what it's going to do is your graphics card is going to basically um, tender to your need of visual. So it will tender to quality and it will enhance what you are seeing in your simulator. Um, the fact of changing the power management, what it's going to do is, regardless of the amount of power that it is using, it is going to maintain running at full max power. So that's where you're going to find your laptop or your PCB going up to 45 watts. If your PC can go up to 45 watts, we'll be pulling 45 watts. Some PCs max out at 35. I don't judge. Mine maxes out at 35, and I highly doubt that it is basically running 35. I think I'm running FSX. It basically, when I lower down the settings, it doesn't run at 35. It runs at 25 watts, which is kind of okay for a bit. But um, what I do for ground scenery, I do have FTX global base. I don't have the vector. I have to get vector soon. But I don't have vector. Vector is FTX vector is it's pretty good as opposed to base, because FTX global base only gives you the global aspect. It basically it gives you global ground terrain scenery and mesh, which is very, 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 very great basically in my case, because if I have to be running the ordinary scenery in the flight simulator, it's not going to give me high FPS. The ordinary flight simulator scenery gives you a very low FPS, and it's not really good, because even with scenery settings down to low, it still gives me shitty FPS, and I don't think I like that all too much. What's best I can see is, if I am using, like, let's say FTX, I get way more frames than I do when I use the everyday scenery in FSX. And to the guys out at FTX Global, they are amazing at what they did, because first of all, to get the scenery settings that amazing in Flight Simulator, it is phenomenal. And basically, I can say for a fact that these guys know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how to build scenery. That's for sure. As you see right now, we are almost to the destination. We will be approaching shortly. At this point in time, the aircraft, just letting the aircraft fly. I've already selected the approach path, which is going to be GPS direct to direct to runway 10 with vectors. So I basically used the vectoring and I did all that. It's not really difficult to do. If you are good with the default GPS, you can do this. It's not really difficult. Now, I am also using Active Sky Next, which is also giving a huge hit on the FPS. If you remove Active Sky Next from the flight, it basically boosts the FPS. It's great. I also have GSX, but I didn't use GSX on this because, I mean, it doesn't really make any sense to use GSX for a GA aircraft. When this Comanche from Angle of Attack, it's basically the most detailed aircraft that I've used so far. I also have the Piper from them, the Piper 180, and I also have the Cessna 180. I didn't get the the Cessna 172 trainer because in my experience, I didn't really like flying the Cessna 172. It was basically too, how would I say, sensitive. There I go, reducing the power too low again with the gears up. I have to keep it at a steady power level. For the most part, I didn't feel using GSX for this GA aircraft necessary because you have the tow bar where, and I'm also using Easy Dock, as most of you all can see. I didn't really find using GSX for this too much of beneficial to me because I also have the tow bar where I can tow this aircraft how I please, tow this aircraft. Technically, once I arrive at the gate or the ramp, I can tow it to wherever I need, put on chocks. You can also set this thing on jacks though. With the jacks, it doesn't go into the maintenance hangar apparently. I'm not too sure why. I'm not too sure if that's a bug. I will keep trying to see what the issue is, but basically I am using normal textures for all the airports that I'm landing at, except for Dominica. I'm using the PW sceneries, freeware scenery for Dominica. There is payware scenery, but it's not as detailed as the PW sceneries are, although the PW sceneries are lacking in some aspects. Basically, the realism about the runway that I'm going to land at, where I'm delivering the aircraft, it's not accurate in Flight Simulator because the runway is not basically 4,000 feet long. It's at this point in time, at the making of this video, it's 8,500 feet long, and it's not an international runway, but it's a regional runway. There are night lighting, and most of the sceneries, the freeware sceneries, as a matter of fact, they don't have the runway lighting, night lighting. For runway night lighting, what happened, I did use an editor tool, for a scenery editor tool, so that I could, well, the airport builder, not scenery editor, the airport builder. I used airport builder to build up the airport and changed a few things on the runway. I changed the distance, the length of the runway. I couldn't make it 8,500 feet because if I tried to, it would mean that the aircraft, the runway would either be hovering over the drop-off, or it would be too much into the mountain, and that's not really a good sight because it doesn't really make any sense. It's that way, and it's not basically being realistic. It's gonna be a loss. I didn't really get to finish doing it because I had to learn a few stuff. Technically, I'm neither an airport builder. I don't know how to build sceneries. I just use the Google Think Machine, which is the best for everything. Bing, to hell with Bing. Nobody likes Bing. So Bing, if you're listening, I'm sorry. You can always give me ad revenue, yeah, but I'm gonna tell you right now, Bing sucks, and there's no fact going around that. The only thing I like about that Bing is the design of the homepage. Other than that, I'm sorry, but I use the Google Think Machine, the Google Smart Man Machine, the Google Student Machine, and the Google Cheat Machine, because basically, if you use it, you are going to get all that you need from Google. So I went on Google and I searched, and I learned how to do a few stuff for building the scenery itself, and I got some design help. I tried to get someone to build the airport itself, but apparently the scenery builder, he didn't really want to do it. I'm not too sure if he didn't want to do it or if he didn't have time. But if you want something done, you better do it yourself, eh? And that's what I did. I edited the airport. I did a few changes. I sent it up to 6,000 feet. It was basically just like about 200 feet shy of being off the runway, off the water itself. So it was kind of a win-win. And I added the runway lights. I changed the terminals itself because there are new terminals right now. Although after the water issue, I'm gonna be switching to my tip tanks right now because my normal tanks, as I looked at them, they were basically gonna be empty completely. And if they empty completely, that means that my engine is gonna shut down on me, and we're not as yet close to the runway, so it doesn't really make any sense letting them run bone dry. So I swapped it over to the tip tanks, and yeah, and yes, I have the tip tanks installed. Apparently, like Frugal says from Frugal Sim, it's better to use the tip tanks because it's aerodynamically better, and it adds, I think, 30 kilograms of fuel, 30 pounds, 30 kilograms, not too sure. I could be lying, I could not, but that's basically when I searched up for this aircraft, when I searched for the reviews for this aircraft before buying it, that's what I got. That's the review that I got. And Frugal did a small flight. You should check out his channel. It's Frugal Sim. I know he doesn't need my, how you would consider it, my ad revenue. He doesn't need me to mention him in my videos, but yet still, I'm telling you, he makes brilliant FSX videos, and I would suggest checking him out. For now, we are approaching our first destination. I would really like to think I can remember the airport that I landed at, but I think it's Providence International. I really don't know the island itself, but all I know is Providence. It's Providence International. When I took off from a country club because I did a first flight out of Piper headquarters and tried to do the first flight, but apparently FS Recorder, every time I went to re-record the video, reset the video, or to record the video using Fraps, it would start off with me taxiing, and then all of a sudden I would be like a third of the way in. It would basically, I don't know if the that part of the video was corrupted or what happened during the time, but it would mess up my video. So what I did was I just stayed the evening at the country club where I landed. I will make a disclaimer, I am not the best at landing GA aircraft. I can land the Cessna 208 way better than this because the wheels are a lot lower than I thought. Usually when you hop into this aircraft, you take off, you think, I can land this, and you try to touch down with this, and the thing is, once you arrive to touching down, you go to idle when you think you need to be at idle, and that's not it. You would just feel the aircraft drop out of the sky as quickly as possible. And what I found was that this aircraft is very difficult to land, very, very difficult. Especially if you are transitioning from a heavier aircraft or a larger aircraft into general aviation, I would suggest that before transitioning into this, fly the Cessna 172. It would be basically better. The Cessna 172, the default Cessna 172 might I add, and then once you get a feel for landing these types of aircrafts, you can go ahead and try learning with this. But my advice to you, if you're going to transition to this aircraft, is try to fly this aircraft after you have learned to fly the Cessna 172. You have learned to land. I'm not saying you have to be the best at landing, because as you're going to see, my landing is shitty. At this point in time, I am trying to perfect the landing. That's the purpose of this flight. It's not necessarily to just deliver the aircraft, because I could just fly and deliver the aircraft, touch down, stop at the end of the runway, turn around and go through the parking, load up the fuel, and then take off again. Basically, I'm giving myself personal breaks, because this is not the only game that I play. I also play Slither.io. I also play Agar.io. I also play Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, Boom Beach. Um, yes, I play Haiti. Yes, Supercell, they are great, so support the games. I also play a lot more other games, the Call of Duty series, everything. The only difference is I don't play them as much. At this point in time, I do have some Clash Royale videos up on my YouTube channel. On Yeah, on this YouTube channel, I do have a lot of Clash. Well, not a lot, but I've just started, and the Clash Royale videos, they are interesting. I would suggest that you all check them out. A little bit high on the approach here, but doesn't really matter. It's still going to be a good approach and a, well, kind of shaky landing. Like I said, I'm not accustomed with this aircraft, and I think I'm sitting a bit too high. I think I will change my viewpoint because I wanted to see on top my bonnet, which is basically nice. I just love the detail of that. I love to see the nose of my aircraft, but I think I will change my viewpoint to see if that will better my landing. If it does, then I will keep flying with that viewpoint. When I am going to land, I will fly. When I'm going to land using the new viewpoint that I can land at. When I'm taking off, I'm going to take off using this viewpoint where I could see the top of my bonnet. It's basically nice. It basically will depict exactly how I sit because I'm a very tall guy and I'm just basically guessing right now as to what I will be able to see and what I cannot see. Landing GA aircraft's not going to always be the best, but if you can land it, because I used to fly this aircraft a lot before I stopped, and I started flying for American Airlines Virtual, FedEx Virtual, Emirates Virtual, Virgin Atlantic Virtual, Ryanair Virtual, Liat Virtual. I flew for Caribbean Airlines Virtual, and they just keep coming. I used to fly for a lot, even Lufthansa Virtual, for example. So I stopped flying the Comanche for a while, and I transitioned over to that. This point in time, I added more flaps. I've added the second degree of flaps, increased the power, and tried to get a good approach speed right now. And like I was saying about the scenery, I would suggest that anyone who is going to fly Flight Simulator, they get FTX Global. It will revolutionize the scenery. It would look perfect, just remarkable. You wouldn't necessarily need to get add-on airports to have a basically good-looking simulator. You would need to only add a global base, and you will get a very decent-looking sim. So, at this point in time, the landing looks shaky because it's basically turbulent where I'm going to land. As you see, I'm not in line with the runway center line because there is a slight crosswind across the runway, which is kind of messing around with my flight controls. I'm not saying that it's all because of that. It's mainly because, like I said, I'm not a perfect pilot. I'm flying this using a default joystick. I don't fly with keyboard and mouse. I used to, and I used to do it perfectly. The only difference is that you have to time using keyboard and mouse a lot earlier, so the judgment is going to be somewhat different. I fly this using a normal joystick, so the calibration of that joystick is kind of off because there are certain points where my joystick will move and give small input. So if you see, I basically tap it, go back, it will move back, and the joystick it doesn't latch on to pull, so you won't feel the spring loading. You will only feel it go back by a slight bit, and that is enough to pull the nose of the aircraft up. That's what you're seeing when the aircraft nose gets pulled up. It's not basically me pulling it up, it's the joystick making simple movements. And I basically let it happen because, yeah, it basically keeps me on a perfect glide path for the runway at this point. And as you see, I'm still a bit high. I will change that in a few, just a little bit of making some minor corrections, and here we go. That's one red, and we're gonna get two red here, and we're gonna try to level or try to reduce our rate of descent, although it's not gonna work. We're gonna get three reds and then four eventually, but nobody cares basically, because this runway is it's sufficient enough. We can land on this runway and try to stop. I was trying to get down and stop. As you see, there's the noobish Comanche 250 pull off the power and the flare, because I thought I was gonna hit the nose, so I flared and touchdown. It wasn't a great touchdown, as you see. Course minor corrections on the runway. It wasn't the best touchdowns of the world. It wasn't a case, it wasn't a greaser, but at least we didn't damage anything on the aircraft. And we're going to do a nice slight turnaround here. We didn't damage anything on the aircraft. That's the main thing, because we want to get this aircraft to the customer in pristine condition. Once we land in Dominica, where we have a few items that we're going to use to change certain stuff on the aircraft to ensure that when the aircraft is delivered, it's delivered with parts that are not yet used. Well, it's not going to have parts that are not yet used, but it's going to be in brand new condition. Basically, all the engine components, basically the starter, the battery, the oil. We're gonna top off the engine oil. We're gonna change all that. We're gonna empty the fuel tanks, and then we're going to refill it to ensure that we have clean fuel in there. We are going to change the tires. We're going to do a complete overhaul of the aircraft once we get into Dominica. So at this time, we are just gonna park. There's not much to say. We will say the rest that we are going to be saying in the next video. I am glad that you guys could be joining me here today for this flight. There are mistakes that were made, and I assure you, the mistakes that were made were not intentional, because like I said, I'm not a pilot in real life. I'm just a normal guy. So if you like this video, I would suggest that you drop a like, comment. You could subscribe as well to my YouTube channel. I know the name is funny, but yeah, let's just go with that. Also, if you feel, you can feel free to share this video. You can basically enjoy it. Thanks for the view. Right now we're just gonna shut down the engine and switch this aircraft off and switch it straight into cold and dark mode. So thanks a lot for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you like this video. Like it, smash a like button. Thanks and bye guys.